Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is all about turning your pain into creativity. How do you turn your pain that you suffered from a very young age, losing your father at the tender age of 10, into something positive, into making music? My guest, Donoso, did just that. She's a Latin sensation, breaking down expectations in the United Kingdom. She's an artist and songwriter. But what's really fascinating about her is that the Chilean-British Donoso is an artist determined to create a fresh, exciting sound and forge a new path. She's recorded with many successful music producers and artists, and still determined to show the world what she can do utilizing her voice. She spent half of her childhood on a farm in Chile, working with her father and the other half in London with her mother. And she has one sister, and she has a very big passion for animals. From an early days, she lost her father at the tender age of 10. We'll be talking about what that grief, losing her father that young, meant to her, and how she came from a background that no one was in the music industry, although they could sing, but not quite in the music industry, but utilizing those love for music to find her own passion and to start singing, to become a songwriter. She was talking about the challenges in the music industry, especially for a female artist, and how she's overcoming those challenges. And finally, we'll be talking about what next for Amber and where can you find some of her exciting new tracks that are out and coming soon. Meet my amazing guest, Amber Donoso, as we share her story about music, passion, overcoming pain, dealing with grief, and finding your joy. Meet Amber. Well, hello everyone again. Welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is really about taking creativity, turning it into your passion, not having a background. Most people start music because probably daddy was in music, mummy was in music, or you have a family generation in this sector, and that's something that called you to that music industry. But not my guest today. Amber Donoso did not. But she'll be telling us about her single, how she got into the music, because she's not originally. Her mom lives in the United Kingdom. Her late father was living in Latin America. So you can imagine the difference. And her music style is so different, so unique. And I want you to enjoy this conversation, because it's not a conversation just of her music, but it's also a conversation of her upbringing and what led her onto this beautiful path. Amber, how are you today?
Oh my gosh, that was the most lovely intro ever. Thank you so much. I feel honored. Yeah, I'm really well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm doing very well. The weather's getting cold. We have to get ourselves, that hibernating
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out. I'm doing well. So, you are such an amazing girl. I was looking at your CV, they call you the Latin sensation, breaking down expectation in the United Kingdom. And I was like, anyone who listens to you, say, why Latin? She sounds very English.
Yeah.
Where's that coming though? And so as an artist and songwriter, before we get into all of that, can you tell me in a few words, who is Amber?
You're so lovely. Thank you. So I'd say Amber, in a couple of words, is a very creative, loving, and expressive soul is what I would say. I mean, in regards to music, I mean, I come from a Chilean father, a British mother. I grew up within two different cultures, and don't come from a musical family at all. And it was actually from, unfortunately, my father passing when I was 10 years old, where I started my music journey, and it was so impactful for me and so healing for me. So I have a lot of love and time for music, because I honestly, it's been my form of therapy in one sort for a very, very long time. So I'm very grateful for it.
You're often described as an artist whose roots are embedded in both Europe and South America. You're half British, half Chilean, like you said, and you're currently living in London. What does these different backgrounds, you're living in both in fact, I would say both continents, right? What have
Yeah.
you learned by living in these two continents?
You know what? It's something where it has been such a massive blessing. Just because I would say my Latin background and my British background have been so polar opposite. I mean, I very much in London growing up, it was very, London, like it was very kind of flashy, like London is flashy. And my Chilean life was very much me growing up on a farm with horses and taking care of horses and being around animals all the time. So it was so, so different, but it was so humbling and so, yeah, honestly, I'm just really, really grateful for it. And I think the older I've gotten, it's been more of a challenge to be able to combine both cultures together, because I find most people generally find that they have to slot into one or the other. And this is what a big message of mine within my music is, we're able to do anything we want. If you want to be more English, you can be more English. If you want to be more Chilean, you can be more Chilean, or you can be both. Or if you find a new culture, which I personally, this is my personal belief, if I was to find a culture which isn't necessarily my own, I also feel like I can play a part in that culture and get involved, and I think this is what I stand for. If you're into the Latin market and the Latin culture, come join us. I don't mind where you're from.
I will be joining you guys because
Please do, please do.
Music, so it's something the reggaeton. It took me a while to understand what that meant, and even though you listen to the music out here in the United Kingdom, sometimes you miss out on that.
Yeah.
And I started understanding the music and the way of, and it's just a lot of dance. The instrument is different. The sound, the beat is so, really to your heart.
For sure.
You spent half of your childhood on a farm in Chile with your father, and the other half with your mother in London. And when I thought about living on a farm, what was it like to truly live on a farm? Because people think living on a farm is, there you are, looking all glamorous, and this is a girl who grew up living on a farm a bit. What was it like living on a farm in your younger days?
You know what, it's so funny because I think when people look at me now, they can't even begin to imagine. It's like, how? So the thing is, it's because I was kind of born into it. My dad was a sportsman and he was always around horses. It was my normal. I think it's only now kind of the older I've gotten where I'd find it a little bit more of a cult, like almost a culture shock of being on a farm. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like what? I don't feel like I fully fit in here. But oh my gosh, it was so amazing. Like I love animals. I've always have done. So to grow up around them and to be able to have such connection with animals was a massive part of my life. I mean, I have 2 cats now. That's one running, if you just heard that. That was perfect timing. There he goes again. I'm very sorry about the noise. But yeah, no, so that's definitely been a blessing, and it's something which I will always carry with me for the rest of my life. Like I will always be an animal lover, and I'm a nature lover. As much as I don't like being there in nature necessarily for very long periods of time, because I like to be in the hustle and bustle, and I think I'm used to that because of my industry. If I ever needed like a little escape, being in the countryside with animals is like perfect for me.
It is. I love it because it just takes you away, and hopefully when I'm there, I always hope my network is not on my cell phone.
Yeah, it's like an escape.
Yeah, it's just don't work. It's okay. I could
Yeah,
do it for 3 days, but by the 4th day, I'm like, okay.
yeah, enough. Yeah, me too. And I'm like, I need to get back to London.
Yes. This is an emotional bit stopped question because at the tender age of 10, you had to deal with grief from the loss of your father.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from that passing?
That's a really brilliant question.
How did you deal with the grief? Because it's really hard at the tender age of 10.
Yeah, so you know what, this is a detail which a lot of people don't know, is I actually lost my grandfather 2 weeks before my father. So it was a very tough time because I was in Argentina at the time with my father, had to come back to the UK because my grandpa had died, and then 2 weeks later had to go to Argentina because unfortunately my father was in a coma for 5 days before he died. Now, how did I grieve? How did I deal with it? I don't think as a 10-year-old you have the capacity to grieve. You're too young. But my mother is incredible. My mother at the time was speaking to a child therapist in order to kind of basically gain information as to how she could best support my sister and I, which was, I mean, looking back on it, my mum throughout that period was unbelievable. Like, I can't fault her in any shape or form. I don't know how she did it. Like, I look at her like a superwoman. But since then, I would say is when I've felt the grief, if that makes sense. It's like the older I've gotten. And I'm so sorry for this noise, my cats are going nuts. But since then, I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of personal development courses. And I've had massive interest in mental health. I've actually considered being a therapist myself. But I wanted to incorporate basically mental health and everything, but from an artistic point of view. I think it was really important to have a young woman in an urban market who would speak about stuff like losing a father, anxiety, depression, all of these things, because I think where we are living now is you don't associate a lot of those things with those people because they look like they live such an incredible lifestyle. Now, if you look behind it, my experience is those people who live generally the most flashy lifestyles, they're the ones who suffer the most, but they suffer in silence. So this is basically kind of how to sum a massive question up in one. That's kind of how I would answer it.
Well, you answered it beautifully. And I think everyone who's going through something like that, especially, with the pandemic, so many people lost their parents, they lost their loved ones. And, a lot of people are still finding that grief so difficult to process and deal with. But it's always nice when you speak to someone who's, even though you, like you said, you dealt with it at the tender age of 10, you still have to deal with grief because there's a certain age when you get to, even at 20, you say to yourself, oh my God, I wish Dad didn't say I could tell him this, I could tell him this,
Of course. And I really truly believe if you don't deal with the grief doesn't matter whether it's any point in your life, that grief will stick with you and it will manifest into different forms, whether that's you having addiction problems, anger issues, serious depression. Like, in my opinion, when you get hit with a tragic event, it's happened, but now it's your responsibility to choose what you're going to do with that pain and that emotion. And I believe in life, unfortunately, I've had a lot of loss. I recently lost one of my best friends to cancer, and it was so heartbreaking. And like, it was because I had to see her go through chemo and all of that. Now, someone could ask me or say to me, oh, you've experienced grief before, surely you're able to cope with this. And every grief is different. It's losing a father is different to losing a best friend. It's different to losing a cousin. It's different to losing a grandparent. So as much as, I can say, oh, I've had a massive loss at a very young age, I still feel the sadness of losing my dad every day. It's not that I don't feel the sadness. It's just now I know what to do with the sadness, and I think that's really key. And I feel really lucky to be a 25-year-old who can speak about this like that, because when I look at, my best friends, we all have this in common, that we all do therapy and we all do things to help ourselves. But when I speak to my mum, who also does therapy, and she has done the past 10 years, but she'll say to me, gosh, when I was in my 20s, wow, if only I done therapy, I think I would have experienced in a very different way. I'm not here to prove that I'm better than anyone, but I'm saying that with the things that have been difficult and hurtful for me as a youngster, I've been able to convert that into something hopefully positive rather than devastation.
That's true. Amber, you never came from, your background wasn't musical. Your your late father never played music instrumental, never, I don't think even sang. Neither did your mother, and she wasn't musical. But there's something that came out in you that you had a liking for music. How did you start to learn to play? If anybody who starts anything, there's always something at the back at one end that draws you to that thing. What drew you to
Mm.
music, and how do you learn? How did you learn to play?
So yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of music with my mum. She used to love Lauryn Hill, Jamiroquai, Madonna, TLC, Christina Aguilera. Like there was music always on, like Top of the Pops or MTV. That was always in the background. And my mum used to sing the songs, and she used to always harmonize. Like she still to this day, I like look at her and I'm like, if I got my musical ability from anyone, it would have been my mum, because she can just hear harmonies and sing them straight out, which is normally what someone would have to train years to do, you know. And again, with my dad, he used to, when a projector first came out, I feel really old saying this, but he had this projector and we had it on this big white wall, and he used to play the live shows of Shakira. Now, Shakira was like my idol. I was obsessed, and I used to stand in front of the projector, and I used to do like all of these dance moves, and I used to be like, oh my God, I want to be Shakira one day. So I had to put it down to that definitely influenced me.
The music industry is very, very tough. And you decided not just to enjoy music and sing, but you wanted to turn this now into a business, becoming a songwriter, artist yourself. What made you, when did you realize as well that this is something you needed to do to move from listening, enjoying the music, to now actually being out there, performing and making this a business?
Yeah, so I think basically what has to carry you through as an artist is your love for music. You know, the industry is super, super tough. And I think, yeah, I realized probably at around age 18 that that was going to be the moment I had to deal with the negative sides of the industry as well. You know, it wasn't always just going to be me singing, kind of having fun. It was also me dealing with very difficult, tough people, tough situations, constantly being told that I'm not good enough. Like it is a very, very, very hardcore industry. And I would be lying, unfortunately, if I said that it wasn't.
And you learned early on that it's also male dominated. There's something that you also speak very open about. You said the music industry is difficult and still heavily male dominated. How did you learn to work your way through all of these circumstances as a woman?
You have to be a bit of a chameleon.
Like
You have to be kind of, every studio session is different. Every meeting you're going to have is different. You know, you have to be, I personally feel like you have to be someone who is ready for anything and everything. And I mean that as you're going to have some people who interview you and ask you questions which you'd never be expected, you'd never expect someone to ask you. You'll also have certain producers who will completely cross your boundary. You know, you'll also have some who won't. So these are certain things where I feel like, unfortunately, nothing shocks me now in the industry, really. I've kind of seen it all. But on the other side, it's made me very, very strong, and it's made me tougher as a businesswoman. You know, I don't see myself as a singer. I see myself as a businesswoman. I see myself as a brand. There's so much more than just my music career. You know, I speak about mental health. I want to have my own clothing line. I'm about to launch my own lash line, which is coming up in the next few weeks. There's so many things which I'm doing, which are part of Amber Donoso, the brand, you know. So yeah, I think it's taking yourself seriously, making sure that others take you seriously, and putting a hardcore boundary when it comes to certain people within the industry, if you feel like it's needed.
Yeah, that's true. It's just having and utilizing those challenges that you come across, and thinking out how do I learn from what's happened, and how do I
100%.
help others, because other people might be going through it. I might be stronger, but they might not be stronger. How do I learn from this experience to pass on the message on to help someone else who might be being in a similar position like I just was?
100%. And I wish honestly, and like looking back, I wish I would have had I wish I would have knew or known of a young artist who was in the music industry. It didn't even need to be my genre, but who would speak about this stuff, because I had to learn it by doing it and by experiencing it. And some of the stuff I could have done potentially with not having to learn by being on the receiving end of horrible behavior. So it would have been nice for me to have that. So if I can help anyone, honestly, it would be an honor for me, and it would make all of those tough times for me worth it, because it would be kind of like, you know, I've learned from it and now I can help others learn or deal with a situation like that.
I like what you said here. I had to learn to turn my pain into something which people can connect to. And I thought, wow, turning your pain into something which people. So how did you do that? What kind of ways did you learn to turn your pain into something people could connect to?
You know what, that one took me a long time. That one took me a long time to be able to do. I think, you know what, I've written one of my, which hasn't been released yet, it's coming out soon, one of my favorite songs, and it's the most empowered, like empowering female song, and so confident and so amazing, when I felt so rejected by a guy who I was dating, and I was so sad, and I was so like kind of feeling sorry for myself. And this is probably around a year and a half ago. And yeah, and it was so funny. Like, I just wrote this like amazingly empowering song. And I think, to be honest with you, it was writing it to myself in a way as to, like, you know, listen to this or write this and you're going to feel empowered again. It's almost like my higher self kind of doing a weird 180 for me to listen to something else to kind of pick myself up. And then what it ends up doing is I can end up sharing that with other people. But pretty much no one would ever know that I wrote that song when I was really, you know, devastated or felt really rejected by someone.
Well, you were going through so much.
Yeah.
What kind of fresh sounds are you creating right now? Like, what should we be looking forward to in Amber's world?
Thank you. I think the coolest thing about my music, which I really love, is incorporating my British roots and my Latin roots. It's something which you don't come across often, because especially within the Latin market, there's a lot of American Latinos, but it's very rare to have a female artist do it, like a female British artist doing reggaeton, you know? So to be able to combine those two things, and again, my cultures of what I grew up with, is super cool. I mean, all of my songs are in English and Spanish. They're super empowering for women and all people, but especially women, because reggaeton is kind of notoriously known, and it has been for a very long time, to be a male dominant industry, because it's the men talking about kind of pretty much most of the time sexualizing women. And what I wanted to do was, I didn't want to sexualize men, because that's not doing me or anyone else any favors. So yeah, what I wanted to kind of bring to the table as a female artist was to talk about things which aren't commonly spoken about within reggaeton, which is being in touch with, and it's happening more now than ever with female artists, but being in touch with your feelings, being in touch with your sexuality. And there's nothing wrong with that. It should be something which is celebrated, you know, as in which I experiences. And you have this a lot in bashment, in dancehall, in Afrobeats, when the men speak about what they want to do with women, but then a woman does it and it's outrageous. You know, it's like, oh, how could she say that? You know, and I'm trying to break that boundary, where I think it's great if it's respectful. For me, it has to be respectful. We should all be able to talk about that.
Yeah, and talk about our feelings and things that matters to us as well. So that your music is a mixture between the Latin American market and the British market, combining, bringing it something unique flavor, which no one really has done before. I think you'll probably be one of the first British artists in the reggaeton sector. There might be others, but I mean, you're one of the few one out there that's really pushing that boundary and making sure the more British audience understand the reggaeton music and how that flows.
Thank you.
You know, there's a music you released called Candela. Is that something you?
Candela, yeah.
to align, and it says this aligns you with colorful palette of musical skills. Where did you go with this song, and why did you release that? So tell me a little bit about Candela.
So Candela is translated as fire in English, and I wanted to write. Candela is pretty much all about this fiery woman who states what she would like, and it's a very sensual track, and it's a very powerful track. And yeah, I just wanted to. The song I wrote in Miami, I wrote it in my apartment in my kind of little patio thing, and this was just as COVID was hitting. So I wrote it basically a week before COVID, well, the UK got into quarantine and I had to fly back. No, and the moment I wrote it, I was just, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I wrote it with a couple of different people. I wrote it with two brothers called Los Rumbos. I wrote it with an amazing artist herself called Oriana. And then the track was produced by an amazing producer called D Tanox, and then it was mixed by a guy called Ricardo Quintero. So the team behind that song were incredible. A lot of them were male, but they were males who celebrate women, and that was really important for me.
That's really good.
Yeah.
When you think of music, there's always the inspiration behind any music, because you have to know what angle you want to go into. Where do you derive your inspiration for your music?
I mean, in regards to the genre of music I'm in, to reggaeton, I mean, I grew up in it, but I used to be I've gone through a real progression of my own artistry. I used to be kind of more Ellie Goulding sounding. I was a singer-songwriter on my guitar. Then I went through pop, then I went through R&B and trap, and then I got to reggaeton. It was such a journey for me of learning which kind of category I wanted to, place myself in nicely. As much as you can mix genres and stuff, and you can do different types of tracks, you also need to know what your home is as an artist, and my home is reggaeton. So I think, yeah, that was really important to me. And in regards to what I write about, I mean, could be anything. Honestly, I remember I wrote a song about an interaction which I had for about 3 seconds, and I wrote a whole song about it. And that was my first single, well, Dirty Dancing, which I put out, and it was literally based on what someone had said to me for 3 seconds, and then I wrote this whole song about it. But generally what I like to write about is love. I'm a big romantic.
Well, what artists tend to inspire you, and what reason do you have these artists inspire you?
Yeah, so I think I've had a couple of different artists in different ways. Shakira was a massive one for me, just for what she stands for, a lot of things which I stand for. She's very transparent as an artist, and she does a lot to help people, which is important to me. Gwen Stefani, style-wise, how she dresses was massive for me, and that's actually one now when I say, oh yeah, Gwen Stefani heavily inspired me, a lot of people like 100%, I can see it straight away. And it's because I studied her so much. I was just like, I thought she was so amazing. I was just like, okay, how do I make my own version, for me to be my own version of kind of Gwen Stefani, Shakira. Other artists which inspired me was a Latin artist called Juanes, who was really big when I was growing up. And yeah, who else? Lauryn Hill's songwriting really, really inspired me. Erykah Badu was another one. I've honestly grown up listening to so many different styles, and I've seen so many different artists that I took my favorite part of what I loved about each artist, and I tried to make it my own and combine them all together.
Yeah. Well, how do you use music to motivate others? Because it's, one thing I love about music is a good platform, and everyone listens to music. It doesn't matter if you're in your car, if you're upset, if you're happy, if you're getting married, if you're going through a funeral. It doesn't matter what you're going through in life. You will listen to music. How do you use music to motivate the people who are listening to your song?
I try to do feel-good music. For me, it's the sort of music, like, I like to listen to music, whether it's morning or night, which I can vibe to, and it makes me feel good. It lifts my mood and it empowers me. That's, for me, you'll see a constant kind of reiteration of me saying empowered, 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 because I think growing up when I was at school, I didn't feel at school that school provided me with something that could really hone into my gifts and my creativity. So for me, now that I'm an adult and I'm older, it's like, you know, let me try and bring what I wish I had when I was little, you know, like if other kids out there can listen to my music and feel empowered and confident, oh my gosh, like that is for me, like my job's done, you know, like I just want people to feel amazing.
Yeah. Some of your biggest achievements, one of the things that why I'm asking this question, that so many people go into this music then and just think, okay, it's just something I want to do, not realizing there's a business side and there's a way you have to make it work. But you've gone into it and you've achieved some massive success. Can you share with me one of your big success that you're really proud of today?
Thank you. I think one of the really big ones for me was I did one of the major leading TV shows in Chile called Sigamos de Largo. And that is, it was basically, there was a talent show and it was the final and I was the guest artist who performed basically before they had kind of given out whoever the winner was. And I felt so proud to be a Chilean in Chile singing my own song, you know, like little Amber was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like I'm not Shakira, but it was like, oh my gosh, it's like my moment of me being the Shakira on the projector when I was little, you know. So that was a really big one for me. Also filming the music video to the Osa Sensual, which is my latest single. That was another pinch me moment because I'm wearing this unbelievably amazing massive pink gown and I've got my pink hair and I just was like, I'm like living my dream right now. In that exact moment, I recorded a video of myself to remember when I'm having tough times in the industry, remember that you get good times as well. And that's that clip I took. I've got a headline show coming up on the 5th of December, which I would love for you to come. So that's going to be another brilliant one for me. That's going to be in London. So I've had quite a few. I mean, look, I'm telling you the best bits of my music career, but I think it's important to just for anyone who's listening, if you're an artist yourself, please do not compare yourself to my success because I've had pretty much mainly the downs, which most artists have as well, you know? So I think for whoever's listening, yes, you have great moments, but you also have a lot of tough moments. And if you're going through that, don't take that as a reflection of how talented you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what field you are in. There's always going to be that ups and downs. But what I love about what you said is that when you had that pink gown and you had the pink hair, you took a picture of it to keep reminding yourself, yes, every day I might go through pain. Every day this might be tough. I might be getting rejection. I might not be making enough sales like I think I'm going to make. But at the end of the day, there are good times, and that video will constantly remind you of the good times you wish you have seen. My final question before I let you go, and what is the new release date for anything you have coming up, and how do people access your music, Amber?
Thank you. So my next release, I mean, it's pretty much 100% confirmed, but it's the 19th of November. I've got 2 artists featuring on this track. So it's my first collaborative art, like as in with other artists singing with me. They are amazing. One, I'm not going to say who they are. One artist is very successful within the music industry, is an artist himself, and the other one is very successful but is in a different part of the creative industry, and it is his first musical track. And he's very talented, so I'm really, really excited about putting that out. That song will be performed for the first time on the 5th of December. As I said, for anyone who's listening, please come along. The show's going to be in London Bridge. I'm going to be promoting it on all of my socials, which is Amber Donoso. And yeah, I've just got lots of wonderful things coming up. I've got this lash business, which I'm about to launch as well, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, that's pretty much everything my end.
Well, Amber Donoso, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it because I really love talking to you. I learned so much about the music business. I learned also about dealing with grief as well. dealing with hard times and how to find your joy. Living between countries, this is one thing I enjoyed talking to you. We didn't just focus on one subject, we learned a lot over our conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time, and I'm such a big fan of yours. From the first time we met, I just thought you've just got such a radiant, beautiful soul, and I just think you're wonderful, and I think what you do is wonderful. So thank you for chatting.